Hello, everyone. I'm quite excited for today's webinar session, and we're just going to do some quick housekeeping stuff. While we are waiting for people to join. My name is Sailesh Dev, and I'm going to be moderating the webinar for today. And I am very excited and super happy because we have two special guests on our webinar today. And again, both of them are leaders in the recruitment space. I read a lot about the work that they do, and some of their podcasts and video casts. And I'm super excited for today's session. So yeah, without further ado, let me introduce Claire first, right? Claire Bush is joining us from Sydney at the moment, if I'm not wrong. And
No, I'm in London right now.
okay.
It would have been a long flight to get from Bogota to London to Sydney again. But yeah, I'm currently in London.
Okay, great. Again, a quick introduction about Claire. She works as a fractional, CMO at Thrive Recruitment Marketing and Joint Talent. And she has over 2 decades of experience in recruitment marketing. I would love to call her as the queen of, recruitment marketing. Uh, Again, we are super delighted to have you, Claire, on the webinar today. Again, she's worked for companies like Bullhorn, Randstad, uh, and has a lot of experience in the SaaS space. Yes, over to you, Claire, for a quick couple of minutes to introduce yourself. And I hope I did a good justice to your introduction.
I feel like a bit of an imposter now, Sailesh. Thank you so much. Definitely not the queen. I've spent a long time working in the talent space. So I'm a marketeer and fell in love with the pace of recruitment marketing. Fell in love with recruitment, I suppose, is the real crux of it. Almost 20 years ago, had a really great kind of introduction to recruitment through Randstad and the team there at Martin Anderson. And since then, not been able to escape. I actually do a lot of work now in what I call activating brand. So I work with both the talent brand and commercial brands of organizations to help them to create more impact and grow. And so, yeah, it's great that I get to work with people like Yasar and the community as well that we support. And let Yas talk about the talent community. But yeah, my passion is very firmly with this space and all things recruitment marketing.
Thank you, Claire. Up next, we have Yasar Ahmad with us. And guys, Yasar needs no introduction. He's a talent leader. And again, Yasar, thank you so much for being a part of this session today. Quick introduction about him. He's a global VP at HelloFresh, and he's worked for some stellar brands like Zalando, and again the likes of Wipro Digital, etc. He's also the co-founder of the talent community, which is again a growing community with more than 4,000 plus members. If I'm not wrong, yes, sir. Over to you quickly.
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me. I was super excited about this anyway, and then when I found out Claire was on it, I was even more excited. So I'm really pleased to be here. So as Sailesh said, my name is Yasar Ahmad. I've been in the TA space for the last decade and a half, I'd say, quite easily. But previously was more into, I was like a Scrum Master, and like everybody who gets into recruitment, I fell into it. I'm not sure I fell in love, but I definitely fell into it. Currently, I manage recruitment, so I do talent acquisition, global rewards, compensation, equity, tax, travel, and global mobility for HelloFresh. So manage quite a large team at the moment. I think it's always kind of floating between 150 to 175 people. Yeah, it's been really exciting. I think there's a lot of exciting things that we've done recently that I would love to talk about and share. So we can get straight into it. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Yasser. Great. So guys, we're gonna have a quick, Q&A session at the end, right? So before I begin, I just wanted to let everyone know that please feel free to drop in your comments and questions in the Q&A forum down, and we will definitely pick up those questions at the end, right? So Yasser, I'm gonna put you in the spot first. So, we usually start these sessions, with a little bit about asking the why behind what you're doing today, right? And one of the things that I really wanted to understand and also learn from you is you do a lot of community work beyond, beyond your role at HelloFresh, in terms of nurturing and giving back to the community, right? Um, why do you do that, right? Again, just a curious question as an entrepreneur, because I'm sure there's a big why behind it, and it's a lot inspiring for people like me and other budding entrepreneurs to give back to the community, right?
Yeah. Look, I don't have some. It's more of a philosophical view on life, I suppose. Many years ago, I think it was like 2012, I have a very close mentor of mine who said, in a world where you can be so many different things and have so many different emotions, why not always choose kindness? And that always kind of stuck with me. And then he said, you will be measured. You should measure yourself based on how selfless you are. So in my head, I always thought, okay, well, what can I do today that's going to help someone? And I think that's what's the amazing thing about the industry. You are actually at the beginning of something very exciting for every single candidate. You're not telling them, hey, but you're losing your job. You're telling them, hey, you've got this job. And that's a really exciting thing. And then beyond that, you have these amazing people that are dedicating their lives to helping people find careers. And I don't think they get the credit they deserve. So I think within the work that we do, myself, Claire, and others, I think our passions lie in helping people. I think when it comes to the HR world, the talent acquisition professionals are probably the professionals that embody this idea of selflessness. They get this immense pressure to hire people, immense pressure to do all these things, KPIs, sales target type approach, but they do it because they enjoy it. They enjoy that, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing everything for me during the interview process. It's kind of selflessness, especially in internal mobility, internal in-house recruiting, sorry, where there isn't a sales commission or some incentive like that. And I think when you're trying to build a community and you can help each other, you find that this specific industry, this talent industry, because they are selfless, you can actually have really a cascading effect. You help one person, they help another person, another person, and that's exactly what's happened. And that's how we started the talent community. It was just a place to say, hey, there's no difference between an in-house recruiter and an agency recruiter and an RPO recruiter. We're all trying to help people. We can help each other first.
Right. Well, that's a very interesting, perspective, Yasser, because I've been a seller myself, and I've been part of sales and a lot of GTM teams, right? And that's very true, right? And in terms of the way recruitment is done today, it's a lot more sales oriented, numbers and a lot of metrics, but the similar incentives do not apply here, right? But yeah, really admire some of the work that you do. Yeah, Claire, again, flipping the same question to you, right? Is recruitment marketing is quite niche, right? I've heard, very few people, you know, placing their bets on that, or being really passionate about it, right? And you fly around the world to give talks around, recruitment marketing. Uh, like, how did you get into this, right? Again, was it by accident, or there is a driving force behind it?
I think it's a bit of both. It's probably a perfect storm of in the right place at the wrong time kind of situation. Marketing has always been my first love. But when I was studying, which feels like hundreds of years ago now, I was actually studying relationship marketing. And it was the concept of knowing and understanding the drivers, not just from a psychology perspective, but also from a data and information perspective. And this is going back sort of 25 years, I think it is now that I've graduated, where social media wasn't even a thing. We just literally, I came into the world of work where the internet was just transforming and email was only just onboarding. So technically speaking, the speed in which technology has transformed business, I've always been on the, but what happens to the people side, and how is that actually affecting the people? And so from a commercial marketing perspective, it was always about how do you convince someone to buy or invest or be part of a journey. And then when I came into recruitment, it was even more of a why. And I think to Yasar's point, that whole transformation of lives, that what we do matters, the conversations that we create really do propel people into hopefully better situations for themselves, and their growth is important because it helps to propel business. And we can kind of see the world go round when the right people are in the right positions. So yeah, I'm sort of magnetized by people. I love networking, and I love as well the community support, and the fact that once you kind of have a capacity to connect with someone based on something that you've got in common, you never lose that connection. And we are, as an industry, incessantly close. It feels like we've, everybody's got everybody's back, which is a wonderful place to be. It actually makes it so much easier for everybody to do their job. And yeah, I'm kind of a bit of a workaholic as well. So I do love my job. And yeah, the word love pops up a lot for me. But yeah, it's all about the people for sure.
Yeah, no, that's very inspiring to learn, Claire. And you're just segueing from there, right? I remember you speaking about the science behind why people like love their jobs, right? Can you probably touch a little bit about that, because we're almost talking about the same thing, right? Whether it be a recruiter or a recruiter having a conversation with a candidate, it all boils down to psychology, right? And it all boils down to how do we get, or how do we entice candidates, right, into better situations, right? So can you throw some light around the psychology behind it?
Yeah, actually, I did just present this at an event last week, but it was, for me, the way in which recruiters is they're the matchmakers. And so there's the memes going round around people approaching people in inappropriate places and all sorts of things. But I think a great recruiter understands the dynamic of a great relationship with a candidate, and also can translate the opportunity in a way in which the purpose and the position actually really resonate and hit the heart. And so when I talk about recruitment marketing, what we talk about is, not just talking to the head, but also reaching the heart, because there's so many elements in which a person has to connect with an organization before they make that leap, if you like, and they apply. So I talk about the relationship, or also the recruitment marketing aspect, in 5 stages. Recruitment marketing strategy for me is sort of that whole journey in which a candidate takes from being approached to basically taking the job. So initially, it's all about attention. How can you, as a recruiter, create the attention grabbing moment where you get the candidate to really see the opportunity for the first time? And the way in which the modern world works means that we have to make sure that that connection is made many, many times. And I don't think there's a number right now that you can actually equate to how many times someone needs to see an organization or a brand or a job or a combination of all of those things before they actually resonate. And it's probably not that single point or those single points of data that will ever convince someone to click apply. So then you need to really engage the candidate, and you do that through the content, and that might be the brand stories, it might be the verification and employee engagement that you've already got, you can reach into, stories from across your business of people really succeeding or having great time, and actually doing it in a really authentic way. So if it is a real, sort of, I recorded this 2-second comment on my mobile and I've sent it in to my marketing team, then that's really great stuff if it can be woven in and land at the right time with a candidate. So once you've engaged with them and you've told them a little bit more about what it is that you're offering, you build more trust, and trust is the 3rd step. And that trust is really the first point of contact with a recruiter. So there you're really putting yourself on the line and saying, I know everything I can about this business, or I know everything about this role. So I'm going to convey all I can to you, and I'm going to answer your questions. And that trust between the recruiter and the candidate becomes real. And that's at the point where I think we kind of feel like we've done our job, but it's only halfway. And so for me, the recruitment marketing strategy continues to the engagement piece. Sorry, not the engagement piece, the attraction piece. 4th step is attraction. So you're really enabling that candidate to apply for the role. And that application piece is that they're actually applying to a job that's really relevant to them. They're seeing all of the role nuts and bolts, and they are really committed. And then that final stage is building the advocacy once they're in through the door almost, and their experience is something that they can measure. So experience being the 5th element, and that whole cycle enables them to become advocates internally, and they then become a really great, an ambassador for the recruitment process. So getting someone to fall in love with a job is, for me, a very well thought out. It doesn't need to be rocket science, it just needs to be thought out. And it needs to be, for me, in those 5 stages. I'm sure Yas will probably add quite a few to that as well, elements, but I like to keep things simple. And so that's the way in which I designed the strategies that I work to.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting, Claire. And then the more I'm listening to you, I'm able to draw parallels to how product selling and marketing is done, and it's quite similar. And trust plays a very important role, right? So you've done quite a bit of hiring on the leadership skill, right? Especially during your stint at Wipro, and also even within like HelloFresh, right? What are some differences that you have noticed, Yasar, specifically that recruiters have to be mindful about, right? When they're hiring for leadership kind of roles, right? Again, talking about director plus, or let's say C-level positions, right? Again, probably you can start from recruitment marketing. But yeah, my question is much broader, right? In terms of stellar differences that you have noticed personally.
Yeah, sure. So let me first take a step back and reflect on Claire's answer earlier, because she said something there that I think everybody needs to pay attention to. And the key is, she said, attention, right? You need to get people's attention. And as Claire, you were saying that, I immediately reflected on something that happened to me in 2006. And I always think about this one event. I walked into a suit shop and I was kind of trying to buy a suit for a wedding. And I was young, I was naive, I didn't know what kind of suit I wanted. But I was, moody. I was a student, I didn't really care. I just kind of whatever, right? I just wanted to buy it. And I walk into this suit shop, and this is probably the third suit shop I've been in. And I'm looking, and I'm just seeing from the corner of my eye someone approaching me, and I'm getting ready to say, it's okay, I don't need any help. And he says, that's not the right suit for you, I'll be over here. And I kind of was like, sorry, what? Sorry, I didn't expect that. And he got my attention. And so I think that's something that doesn't matter if you're a recruiter specifically. I think in a lot of roles nowadays, communication and attention is very, very important. And in sales, go-to-market roles, it's even more important, right? Nurturing that attention, because attention isn't just a one-time thing. It's about, even in this call, the people on this watching this, are they paying attention? Are they getting the information they need? Am I pulling them back into the conversation? And so part of attention is presentation as well. And I think when I reflect on executive recruitment, generally speaking, a lot of it is about that first impression, right? Now, that's what a recruiter can control. Prior to that, there is this whole awareness thing. Does the candidates, do the people I'm approaching, do they even know who I am? Do they even know who our business is? Right. So there's this awareness piece which we can't forget. So for this question, I'll skip that piece for the moment, because I'm sure Claire can dive into that. But that is a massive topic. I can't just reach out to 100 people and expect them to respond if they don't know my brand. They don't want to know my brand, because there's so much noise out there.
Yeah.
So this brand awareness and recognition is very important. It's the reason why you pulled Claire into this conversation. It's the reason why you've invited me. Yeah. There are personal brands as well. And so when you look at executive recruitment, it's almost like going to a nice restaurant, getting a nice waiter to come and tell you, hey, this is the best dish on the planet. And you get this dish, and then the dish it looks disgusting. But it's the best dish. It's got all the best ratings and everything. So presentation is key. Like, it doesn't matter where the presentation, throughout the entire process, there needs to be key. So the way you approach someone initially, hey, I've got this amazing role, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, that doesn't work. Some of my key hires, I just reached out to people. Here's my number. I've got a C-level role for you. It's paying X million. I'm available between 6 and 7. I can give you a call if you want, or you can call me. And it's reporting directly to the CEO, telling them exactly what they need, cutting through the crap, and then saying to them afterwards, underneath that in appendix, here's all the other extra information. So paying attention to what they need, presenting it to them the way they need, and then being very clear about that. Hey, I know you're busy, so I'm just going to get straight to the point. Now, you could go down the route of trying to sell, oh, I've got this great executive position. It's working for this FTSE 500 company. We do all these amazing things. We're trying to save the world. We give you free breakfast and lunch and dinner. But for someone who's in the executive level, they're just quick. Give me the information, cut the bullshit. I think we can swear. That's not, sorry, excuse my language. But that's how I see it. Like, I think it's all about, to summarize it into core key bits. It's about presentation, and presentation also encompasses engagement. So it's not like, it's the actual, if you think of the engagement graph. So when someone is in the interview process, they're highly engaged during the first interaction, then it drops a bit, then it goes up again in the first interview, then it drops a bit, and then goes up again, second interview. And just before they get to the last interview and they've had the last interview, drops quite a lot because they haven't heard anything and they're like, what's going on? And that's where engagement, because they start to prepare themselves. Oh, I'm not going to get the offer I want. They're not going to offer me, I don't know. The paranoia kicks in. So you have to think of these engagement peaks and troughs and think, okay, when there's a trough and there's a dip, how do I engage with that person? I know in day 2, if I haven't responded to them, they're going to be paranoid. So I better automate my mailing to them, say, hey, by the way, I know you still haven't had feedback. We're thinking of you, still a hot candidate in our pipeline. We're still very interested, giving them some truth. The stakeholders are in back-to-backs due to end of year, next year planning, or whatever it is. We'll definitely get back to you by Monday. Cool, thank you, Elisa. You acknowledged I'm a human being. That's the difference in exec recruitment. You've got to do that high-touch service. Presentation is key.
Got it. Yeah, you know, that is very logical. Yes, if you look at it as attention and presentation, right? And I'm just going to take this opportunity, Claire, to touch a little bit about about the attention piece that you were referring to, right? Which is before you make that first impression, right? Which like Yasar was talking about, because we're living in such a noisy world out here. Brand recall is quite important, right? When you make that first touch or conversation with the person, sounding a little familiar, again, going back to trust, right? And you have done enormous work in this space, Claire, right? Which is again around brand recall, around employer branding, etc. Right? So can you touch upon some initiatives or approaches that you've seen work well for some of your brands, customers, etc.?
I think for me, the most successful recruiters are those that really understand the brand value proposition of their organization. I know Yasar can speak from the heart when he talks about HelloFresh and probably all of the brands that is represented as well. He really intuitively knows what's driving that business and what makes a successful culture. And that in itself is insight and essence that the recruiter needs as part of their toolkit. So I think, first of all, you've got to really think about what do you know and understand about your business so that you are then equipped to go and have that conversation when the time's right. I think also as well, there is so much noise, as Jess just touched on, in terms of everybody's trying to sell somebody something, and they're trying to do that multiple times during the day. It used to be really, really simple. Buying decisions happened in 3 really kind of, different types of stages, but you had impulse buying and you had that kind of longer burn, think about it, and then you get verification from your friends. Or it was like the big ticket items like holidays or houses and cars, where you had to really plan that purchase because finance, etc., needed to be in place. But when you talk about someone's motivation to leave their job and go to another one, or when you're talking about someone looking for a job and trying to find the right one, there is conflict of time versus result, always. And so there's going to be situations where, as a recruiter, you'll get asked from a candidate time and time again, can I come and work with you? Can I come and work with you? Because they assume that everything that they want in a role is with your organization. And there's a problem there. But let's talk about the other side as well, because I think you need to have 2 different approaches. For those people that you're trying to attract in, you also need to make sure that the message is going out there in a really relevant and resonance level, so that they actually their interest is piqued, their curiosity is tweaked a little bit, and that the sort of connection, if you like, has happened. There's a couple of studies out there as well, which I've looked at over the past. So Google had the ZMOP model. It's a 0 moment of truth, really thinking about when does the decision to buy something really occur. So yeah, there is a lot of studies around it, but guaranteed that when someone presses apply, that's not the first time that they've seen your business, your brand, the job. It's more than likely been very subliminally delivered to them a long time. If we just go back to the candidate who is looking, who thinks that your organization and the job that you have available is the right one, they have been served up conflicting messaging, or they don't necessarily see what you know. And so you've got a problem with the communication piece, you've got a problem with the attraction strategy. And so kind of going back to that model again, but really thinking about what the talent audience makeup DNA really looks like. In marketing, we do a lot of work on personas, and we do a lot of work on I call it value proposition mapping. So I do, again, another model as strategizer, when I'm thinking about what we can offer versus what the market needs are. And then I do quite a lot of just keyword mapping. It helps with all the other bits and pieces. But you need to be able to kind of put the square box over the round peg almost. And then there should be lots of matching there. I suppose, yeah, in summary, I've kind of gone a long way round, but I think in summary, you really have to think about who that end audience is. You also then need to figure out how are you going to bring them to that role, and work with your marketing team, or know and understand what your marketing team are doing over not just your employer brand, but your commercial brand as well, because that drive for your business is also going to add to your insight and your toolkit, so that when you do get to that conversation point, you have something really relevant to say. But also as well, you can go back to those candidates who aren't the right fit for the job right now. And it might be that it's a right now thing, or it might be a later down the line thing, or it might not be ever at all. But you need to be honest, and you need to be candid, and you need to be kind in that delivery as well. But it's really important, because if you keep leaving people on the step of the doorway without actually explaining why they are not getting the answers that they're asking for, then you are creating a massive brand issue. And I think there's a lot of organizations who are seeing that reputation damage because they are leaving candidates unanswered.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great perspective, Claire, into the window of how recruiters can drive marketing across the funnel, right? Not just during the awareness, the part of things. Yeah, again, this is a question for actually the both of you, right? Again, something that I usually ask during the beginning of the webinar, right? So what's your daily source of inspiration, right? Again, a lot of recruiters in the audience, including me, who's doing recruitment on a day-to-day basis. So any influences that you follow, or something that the community should be aware of? And yes, I would definitely want Yasar to also talk about the talent community initiative. But yeah, starting with you, Claire, if you can touch a little bit upon how do you keep up with the upcoming trends? I think that'll be helpful.
Well, definitely first, the TTC is an amazing place to kind of, really surf information and to get help and support. So we have the online portal, we have Slack channel, we also have a WhatsApp group as well. So I'll let Yas explain a little bit more about the mechanics of all of that. But Yeah, day to day, I have a number of alerts that come in. So I've been doing this for a long time now. So if you structure your day with an element of learning and understanding first thing, you can kind of almost then scoot through your day and join the dots. And as I spend a lot of time on outreach to the community and also supporting the organizations that I work for, and the networks and communities within them as well, I find it really useful to know what's going on. So I have a couple of really great newsletters that come through. I subscribe to Human Times, which gives me that sort of top level kind of scrape across all the newsletters and newspapers around what's going on in our world. I also have a bit of a overarching deeper thinking with a subscription to Harvard Business Review. So I get their summaries, and I also get some really great articles which inspire me to either do further research and or to think about the content. And then I get out to events. We're really blessed with a great outward facing events. We've also got webinars like this, and I can't say that I haven't ever come back from an event either, a little bit heavier with knowledge or with a couple of great contacts that I then get to know and keep in touch with for a long time. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that events is my number one. Those two other things are really close. And reading books that people recommend as well. I've got some phenomenal authors in this industry, and actually there's nothing better than to be able to say, I know that person who wrote that book, and actually understand their perspective. And it's really good. It's a great source.
Okay. Yeah, that's I actually love the fact around how some of the materials that you mentioned and the ones that you read are very like psychology driven, right? And especially like Human Times and HBR that you happen to mention. Yes, I would love to learn from you in terms of how do you keep yourself.
Yeah. So I'll give you a three-part answer. I'll start with the easiest, right? So we talked about the talent community. So if you're not part of the talent community, including yourself, Sailesh, you should probably join. Communities are great to learn, ask questions, a safe space where you don't feel like, oh, if I ask this, I'll be embarrassed in front of my team. So we have a Slack community, which is just coming up to 2,000 members. We have the online community on LinkedIn, which is coming up to, I don't even know, I think it's like 2,000-3,000 members. I can't even remember. It's growing so quickly, and we're not even 1 year old. And you find we've got like 400 VP plus members, and then everybody else is kind of in between sales, marketing, but all in the talent space. So that's an easy place to go, ask questions, and just observe. Even if you're a ghost member and you're just kind of watching and learning, that's a great way. The second is something that I find myself in very, very often. So I read a lot of books, generally speaking. I don't read any news articles. I hardly read any newsletters. The only one newsletter I read is, Hung's, because he's a friend, and I'm curious to know if he mentions anybody's name, and I'm like, oh, that person's looking, I'll go poach them. But newsletters, I'm not a fan of newsletters, not a fan of articles. I'm a fan of books. So for me, I find myself in a position where I'm not getting enough information that's relevant to my market. A lot of the things we're doing is usually kind of at the forefront of what we're trying, like what the industry is doing. Fortunately, I have a big brand in HelloFresh who've invested a lot in the talent space. So I have a lot of room for trial and error innovation, have the budgets, et cetera, et cetera. So what do? I'm a fast follower. I'm not an early adopter. Now, I've got no one to really copy in the TA space for certain things. So for example, if I look at AI, I don't think there's anybody doing AI better than anybody else, because there's not enough information out there on AI in TA. No one's really told anybody, hey, by the way, this is what we're doing in EY, or this is what we're doing in HelloFresh. Now, I know what we're doing, and we're really trying to push it to the edge. But the people I copy are the sales teams. So corporate organizations, Microsoft, Google, consultancies, the Deloittes, the Accentures of the world, the ThoughtWorks of the world. See, okay, these guys, that's their bread and butter. They have to sell, otherwise their lights go off. They're not selling a product. They have to sell a service. So they have to be even more efficient in selling. So you learn a lot from observing salespeople, because a lot of recruitment is about sales, selling the role, or influencing, informing about the role. So that's number two. Like fast, copier, fast follower. Number three is a bit more about us as an industry. I genuinely believe we are being very much in a straight line for a long time, our industry, right? We have new disruptors in the last couple of years. We've seen massive amounts of disruptive companies coming in to the TA space, new trends building up more and more prominently around recruitment, marketing, technologies, and so on. But that's because you have these people that are tinkerers. They like to experiment. So one of the key things I've always really, really been passionate about, and my inspiration is my son. So my son is now 14. 9 years ago, I was visiting my mum's house, and I tell this story all the time because it's the one that sticks with me. And it's the one that pretty much changed my life, changed the way I think. And I was visiting my mum's house, and he's 5 years old. And we go to my mum's house, and he knows that my brother lives at the mum's house, and he has an Xbox at the time. And he runs into the living room. He wants to switch on the Xbox. And so I go downstairs and make myself a cup of tea, come back upstairs, and I'm looking at him and thinking, what are you doing? And he's shining this laser pen at the Xbox. So what are you doing? And he says, I'm switching on the Xbox. I said, that's not how you do it. You get up and you press the button. And he said, no, I can do it that way. And I said, no, you can't. And he says, if I can do it, will you buy me an Xbox? I said, if you can switch on the Xbox with the laser pen, I will buy you an Xbox. And as I said that, seconds later, the cat came running in and smacked the Xbox and turned it on. And immediately my life changed. I was like, what the hell? This is incredible. I realized this is what hiring managers think when they tell you to do your job. They think they know because they've done it in a way. And it changed my life in so many different ways. One, I realized that there are people who think they're doing what they're doing because it's worked. It's not the right way because they used other people to do the work that they wanted to be done. So you have to stick by your rules and say, okay, yes, you did it the right way. You turned on the Xbox, but technically, can you do it now if I take away the cat? So after that day, I realized tinkering is very important. Being able to just question the status quo is very, very important. Just being able to say, okay, I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm just going to try. That is the core essence of like a successful recruiter, because what they do is they learn from their mistakes. They copy someone else and they copy the best. But then also try to do anything that's a bit different in a safe space. I think that's I can't even remember what the original question was, but that's my third thing I do to learn.
Sure. Yeah, I'll never forget this story. Yes, sir. And this is going to have an impact not just on me, to a lot of the audience, listening today. I mean, both your perspectives around how you keep yourself updated is super helpful for budding recruiters like me and everyone else here. So thanks for being honest and sharing your experience around this, right? And one interesting question. I actually received this in a DM, right, from a recruiter. I'm not going to name them, actually, from a couple of recruiters actually, after they learned that we're actually hosting the both of you on the call today, right? Just a week back, I was listening to this podcast from like Freakonomics, and it talks about the gender pay gap in the world today, right? And it's, I think, pegged at around 68.4% in terms of men and women, right? And yeah, so there's this very interesting study that's done by a very renowned economics professor. She's also a Nobel laureate, and so she shares her insights and observations in terms of the reasons behind the gender gap that exists in the world today, right? And what surprised me the most was it was not even the difference in the pay between men and women for the same kind of a role, right? It was more around men being in leadership or far senior roles when compared to women, and that was the problem that needed to be solved, right? And a lot of questions that slided into my DMs were around just diversity and inclusion, hiring, right? And again, both of you have done a lot of work in this space, right? So if you can throw some light around how company in especially in today's world, right, post COVID, right, where a lot of teams are moving remote and there are options for flexible hiring, etc. How should companies start thinking about these initiatives, right? And then just your perspective around this.
Did you want to go first? Yes,
Yeah, I can go first. I think this is such
Yeah.
let's be honest, this is a contentious topic, right? It's a difficult one that everybody's trying to figure out. But why are they trying to figure it out? Because they want to attract people, because they think it's going to help their bottom line. That's a problem in itself. It's a very selfish perspective. It's not, I'm trying to do this because it's the right thing to do. Fundamentally, we need to have a fair chance when we interview people. It's, oh, because I got to hit my ESG scores. I got to get my diversity numbers up so I can get my funding. I got to get my diversity ratios up so people don't label us as, whatever it may be that they label. And this is with every diversity metric, the 9 characteristics of diversity. This affects all of them. If it's not one thing, it's another thing. If it's another thing, it's another thing. And so fundamentally, there's a values problem in organizations that don't respect the idea of inclusion, where it comes from. When it comes to organizations and why they have this problem, that's pretty much it. When it comes to organizations who are trying to fix the problems, the key denominator is that they understand that, the difference in that, and then understanding, like, we're talking about gender here, but if you think about gender pay gap, the ratio in leadership, is it because we haven't nurtured the talent? We haven't given it the chance? Are we just hiring for fit, or are we hiring for potential? And many times what we're doing is we're painting the same brush, people with the same brush. Oh, they didn't have I've heard crazy things in my career where someone said, I expect this leader, I need a female leader with 20 years experience. Where did the 20 years come from? Why did you need that? And they need to have a software engineering degree. Where did that come from? Like, why are you asking for these things? What is the actual requirement? And so the pre-misconceived views, what we need to get good at is countering those views, changing the rhetoric, not saying, oh, our organization has set a target and a metric, so we need to abide by that. Oh, our organization has said that, hey, we've got this new diversity rule, the Rooney rule, which means that two of the 5 candidates that go through the process need to be women. No, that's an excuse. The real thing you need to start off with is why. You've got no different perspective. Like, I have a problem. By the way, I have a massive problem. I have the reverse problem. I have, at the moment, I'm missing 1 leader. So technically, I have 9 headcount in my leadership team. Out of the 9 people that report to me, I don't have a single male. So I've got 9 directors plus, or women. Now I have the opposite problem. I don't know what happened, right? But actually what's happened is I hired a senior director and all my male reportees went underneath her. So it looks quite bad on my side. It can happen on both sides. But the reason why people are attracted to roles is because they see flexibility. They see leadership that understands them. They see beyond the KPIs and metrics, but the vision of the organization. Why are we doing this? People don't join HelloFresh because they join HelloFresh because obviously compensation. Yeah, that's obvious. They join HelloFresh because of the title and the role they get and the responsibility and remit. Yeah, cool. But the third thing is the purpose. Purpose is important to people. If I said to you 900 million tons of food is wasted every year, 900 million tons of food, and our organization helps you save 70% of your food waste at home, suddenly it becomes a big problem that you can understand and you can get behind. Wipro is a great example. Azim Premji, the chairman and founder of Wipro, he donated a significant amount of money to charity. In fact, to the point where he started his own charity, and nearly 75% of his shares were owned by his own charity. So for every pound you made for the organization, 75p went to charity. How amazing is that? I wake up in the morning, I feel down, and I think, at least I'm contributing to a better world. So these are the things that we need to think about when we're trying to hit our diversity ratios. Like, what are we actually doing here? Where is the humanity in?
That's a really great addition to the attention grabbing elements and also the engagement piece as well. So Yas has just really brought to life that value, purpose, and proposition that you want to be able to kind of put out there. And as a senior woman in leadership, I can probably talk at it from that perspective. I think it's been recently a real awakening for me as I've kind of transitioned into the senior stage of my life, as well as obviously being a senior leader. I've been a director for over 10 years, and I've managed teams and I've managed functions. And the one thing that I noticed as I was sort of, especially the last sort of 5 years of my career, maybe even 10, let's go 10 years back, the number of women in senior leadership was dropping off, particularly those that were older than me. And it wasn't about the fact that their organizations didn't care for them. It was more about the fact that actually they had lost the passion and connection with their organizations. And I think we're seeing a much better internal education in order to maintain that connection between all groups, actually. I think we're doing a damn sight better job of really understanding what inclusion really means, and that continued career path development, that additional flexibility, that sort of maybe dropping to 4 days or kind of working through the working week in a different pattern. I think that openness that organizations now have, I know that it does have massive ramifications for internal time and pay and all of that sort of stuff, but organizations that are striving to provide a real individual employee experience, they have got a better chance of retaining diverse working groups within their organization. I think the pay gap piece will come as well because we can talk more freely. I think it is a real issue, and still a real issue. It's been a real issue for me all of my working life. I'm just quite open, and I like things to be quite transparent. But I also do a job that not that many people do, so I can be a little bit more demanding about what it is that I earn. But I'm also confident in my capabilities to deliver. And I think Yasar pointed this out as well. I've never gone to a job or into an organization where I have been seen as the right person to tick the box. I've gone into an organization where I have gone, this is the purpose I want to be able to deliver to Yasar's point as well. And the acceptance of my potential has been welcomed with open arms. And I've been given that flexibility and freedom to really go and explore. And leading teams as well to do that. So, whenever I'm hiring for team, I also think about ambition, and I think about energy, and energy comes in different ways as well. I think just reading an article about neurodiversity in senior leaders, and again, it's a HBR article, but neurodiversity in women isn't as well documented as it is in, say, young boys, for example. But actually, when you think about the way in which women deal with ADHD or autism, or not deal with it, it's the wrong way to say it, but the way that they cope and project themselves, masking in women is actually a much higher level than it is in men. I don't know, we kind of do it from an early age. So there is lots of reasons, I think, why there is a drop-off in women in senior leadership. I think what I'm pleased about seeing and what I'm constantly hearing is actually organizations that are holistically talent orientated are opening their eyes, asking the questions that Yas just said as well, and really trying to get to their why. And it may be actually, it might even just be a location issue. You know, there might just not be ethnically diverse populations where they need to bring people to. And they may not have an open hiring strategy where they can hire from outside of the region. So yeah, there's lots of reasons, but a lot of them I think are circumstantial and just need a bit more understanding. We definitely need to keep talking about it. That would be great.
Yeah. No, I like really appreciate, guys. This was, as honest as it can get, right? And also for quoting some of your personal examples and your take on this conversation. So, I really appreciate that. Yeah, so quick time check. I think we have 4 minutes still out from the webinar to end. So I'm gonna quickly just check on the chat if there are any questions, for you guys.
It looks like there's some in the Q&A.
Yeah. Okay, I can see a couple of them. Okay, so I'm probably going to touch on this. I think we did not get time to talk about this. So yeah, quickly, related to job boards, right? So there's a question from an anonymous attendee who has asked about the right balance of using job boards and how can you effectively use legacy job boards like LinkedIn, Indeed versus newer job boards, and how do you optimize your sourcing and outreach, right? Yeah. So guys, your quick perspective.
Let Claire go first because she can do a plug.
So I think initially you've got to go back and figure out what's the talent audience that you're really trying to attract. Channels are awesome. Job boards have been around for a long time. The way in which your job can be seen in certain cohorts and the way that the algorithms are all set, they're there. It's like you walk into a shop and instead of buying something, you leave something there to go in the window. I think that's a great place, but it's got to be the right window, right? So it's got to be the right job boards. Social media is phenomenal in terms of, again, reaching. I did a stat last year, which I think, 90% of the world's population that has a mobile phone has access to social media, and we all have an average of around 2. No, that was it. We spend more time on social media than we do eating. So average is around 2.5 hours a day. So social media is a big thing, but again, you've got to think about the timing and the campaign. It can't just be one ad because it won't be seen. It's like the spray and pray method, but actually thinking about that brand awareness and how do you continue to build that conversation or build that curiosity so that you can have a conversation. I think that's the important thing to think about. Some channels work better further down the funnel than others. And I think the biggest piece for me is when you're an in-house recruiter, you've got to think about your career site. You've got to think about your front door. Part of the presentation that I did last week as well was that I really do believe that your career site is the doorway to the organization's soul. It's It is literally all that you can promise, all that you can give, all of the expectations that you want to be fulfilled. And if you can create that in a really authentic and optimized way, you're going to get the right kind of people coming to you every which time. So it will make your job easier to have that engagement with someone, and it will also make it easier to attract them to the specific roles as well. So yeah, job boards are great. They do a big brand awareness piece. Social media is there for your kind of synapses and little attention grabbing. You want to bring everybody to your career site.
Yeah.
Anything to add? Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I think everything you said is right. I think talent communities, like we just posted. So if you go to my LinkedIn page, Yasar Ahmad, go to the recent status. Just this morning, I posted about the people team community. So if you're a recruiter, you should definitely join, because what I'm doing is I'm prioritizing people who are willing to know about my brand, because it's easier to penetrate. Right. So this came from LinkedIn when I was looking at a LinkedIn study, and I saw that they have this feature called Spotlight feature. So you can directly filter people who are previously engaged with your brand. Now, I know you know my brand. That makes it easier for me to pitch it to you. Now, taking that one step further, if I have you in my community and I'm sharing nice career advice, tips and tricks, what we're doing, and I tell you, hey, by the way, I'm going to release this role to you a whole hour before I release it publicly, you're more likely to apply for it, because there's this fear of missing out. Hey, actually, I get to apply to a role before anybody else. That's cool. Right. And so these things are important for people who are passively looking or actively looking or not looking. So, but you have to add value. What it's not just about, here's a job description, apply for a job. Nowadays, you're pulling people into it. So you need to pull their attention into it. That's why you see stuff like what we do, where we release a tech TA radar. If you go and search for the tech TA radar, it's basically our radar of all our technologies that we use in HelloFresh TA. So we're publicly sharing with you. You go copy that same thing, it's open source. You take it to your organization. You look good in front of your manager. Your manager says, well done. You're thinking to yourself, well, I got this information from HelloFresh. I better keep an eye on that. I better join their community so next time. And what you don't know is I'm hooking you in, and I get you eventually.
Yeah.
That's what it is about. It's about that kind of hook. And I think it doesn't matter what page you're on, you can do it. You just need to be original.
Yeah. No, I think I'm able to draw, just an analogy to what you and Claire mentioned, right? It's, again, like career sites and community, both of them share the common interest of, the value of giving, right? Yeah.
Build it and they will come. That's what they say, right? That's a famous quote.
Right.
Build it and they will come.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to answer Shannon's question. She just popped it into the chat. In terms of resources for neurodivergent recruiters and recruiters who want to be allies to neurodivergent candidates, there's a really great pal of ours, Theo Smith. He's a LinkedIn top voice. I've got his LinkedIn profile up here, but he's also written Neurodiversity World. And I think he's writing his second book, or the second edition of this book right now. He is an internal recruiter. He also has neurodivergent, we call them special superpowers. And so he understands massively from the point of view of both the recruiter and also from the candidate's perspective. And he's doing a phenomenal job of educating our world about it. So yeah, do connect with Theo. Tell him Claire and Yasser sent them. But yeah, he's a great guy. And definitely buy his book for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Claire, for answering that question. Yeah, so on that note, again, I really want to thank the both of you for participating today in the webinar, and I hope you had fun, and also to the audience, for staying such a long. And I wish everyone a good holiday season, something that all of us have been looking up to. And on that note, we can conclude the webinar today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been a pleasure having the both of you.
Thank you for allowing us to come.
Thank you.